Hi everybody. Now in this video we are going to discuss about the same chapter, chemical coordination and integration. And in the previous videos we have seen what are the hormones that are produced from the adrenal medulla and also the adrenal cortex. And now we are going to discuss about in detail about the functions that are performed by the hormones produced by the adrenal cortex. Okay, adrenal cortex. So here the first one is already have seen that they are glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids and gonadotrophids. Okay, gonadocorticoids. Okay, gonadocorticoids. These are the three different types of hormones that are produced from the adrenal cortex from different regions or different layers of the adrenal cortex we said. Now here we are looking at the glucocorticoids. Okay, we are looking at the glucocorticoids. Now glucocorticoids, okay, glucocorticoids, the best example we already said it is the cortisol. Okay, the best example we said it is as cortisol. Okay, so here these glucocorticoids will be stimulating the process of gluconeogenesis. Okay, gluconeogenesis. What is gluconeogenesis? It is the process or formation or the production of glucose from non-carbohydrate substances. Like for example, lactate. Okay, for example, lactate. What do you mean by gluconeogenesis? It is the production of glucose from non-carbohydrate substances. Okay, please remember this. So here, gluconeogenesis means it is the formation or the production, okay, production of glucose, okay, production of glucose from non-carbohydrate substances, okay, non-carbohydrate substances, okay, non-carbohydrate substances. So that is called as what? The gluconeogenesis. The best example or one of the example that you can highlight here is the lactate, okay, lactate. So from the non-carbohydrate substances, when the glucose is formed, we will be calling it as what? Gluconeogenesis. Okay, gluconeogenesis. So that is now brought up by the hormones called as glucocorticoids. And these glucocorticoids not only stimulate the process of gluconeogenesis, but at the same time they involve in lipolysis. Okay, they involve in breakdown of the lipids and also they involve in proteolysis. The terms itself tells us that proteolysis means it is the breakdown of what? Proteins to derive energy. Lipolysis and proteolysis. So here the glucocorticoids will be stimulating gluconeogenesis, formation of glucose from the non-carbohydrate substances, and lipolysis and also proteolysis. And at the same time they not only stimulate but they also inhibit. They are inhibiting the cellular uptake and utilization of amino acids. Whenever the amino acids are increasing, they will be inhibiting that process. The cellular uptake and utilization of amino acids is inhibited by the glucocorticoids. This is an important thing that we have to remember, because already in the very beginning we said hormones can be inhibitory or stimulating. So here again under the glucocorticoids we are coming across that they can be inhibitory, means they will be not allowing the cells to take up the amino acids and use the amino acids. Cellular uptake and utilization of amino acids is inhibited. And moreover, the point that we have to remember here is that, okay, especially the cortisol. The best example that we are highlighting for the glucocorticoids, okay, the best example that we are highlighting for glucocorticoids is cortisol. So here cortisol is the best example we are saying, and it plays a key role. Okay, it plays a key role in maintaining cardiovascular system and kidney functions. Okay, for normal functioning of the circulatory system. Okay, or especially we can say the functioning of the heart is also now under the control of what now? Glucocorticoids. And the most important glucocorticoid that helps in maintaining the cardiovascular system and kidney functions is the cortisol. Okay, cortisol. So at the same time cortisol also involves in producing anti-inflammatory reactions and suppress the immune response. You know, during the inflammatory reactions, our immune system produces, okay, the cells, and they try to attack our own cells. In such cases, these glucocorticoids, especially the cortisol, will come and suppress the immune response or system. It will not allow our own system to destroy our own cells during the inflammatory reactions. So that is also brought by one of the most important glucocorticoid called as what? The cortisol. Okay, cortisol. And apart from all these, please remember this cortisol will also helps in stimulating the RBC production. Okay, it stimulates the RBC production. Please remember this also. Okay, so cortisol helps in maintaining the cardiovascular system, kidney functions, okay, and it will produce anti-inflammatory reactions and suppress the immune response and stimulate the RBC production. Okay, we studied that RBCs are produced in the bone marrow. So in the bone marrow, okay, the cells which will be turning up as the or forming as the RBC cells are stimulated by the most important glucocorticoid called as what? The cortisol, which is produced from the adrenal cortex. Okay, adrenal cortex we are saying. And now if we see the next hormone that is produced, okay, the next hormone that is produced, which collectively we call them as mineral corticoids. We call them as mineral corticoids. And the best example for mineral corticoids is what? Aldosterone. Okay, aldosterone is the best example for mineral corticoid, we say. So here aldosterone, a mineral corticoid. Okay, let us say that this is what now? A mineral corticoid. Okay, mineral corticoid. So the best example for mineral corticoid is what? Aldosterone. Aldosterone. It stimulates the reabsorption of sodium ions and water. It absorbs the sodium ions and water, but at the same time it excretes the potassium ions and phosphate ions. Okay, it is taking the or absorbing the sodium ions and water, but in turn what it is doing? It is eliminating, it is excreting the potassium ions and also the phosphate ions from the body through the main part called as the renal tubules of the kidney. Okay, where this process will be taking place? This whole process, okay, this whole process will be taking place at the renal tubules. Okay, at the renal tubules of the kidneys. Okay, renal tubules of the kidneys. This is taking place at the renal tubules of the kidneys. Okay, of the kidneys. And at the same time, when this reabsorption and excretion is taking place, it leads to, okay, reabsorption of sodium ions and water, excretion or eliminating these okay, potassium ions and phosphate ions. Now obviously leads to maintaining the electrolytes. Okay, electrolytes, maintaining the electrolytes. Body fluid volume should not increase nor decrease. Okay, body fluid volume and osmotic pressure and also blood pressure So for all these, now there should be excretion and reabsorption of what? These substances as mentioned above. So for this, which hormone is playing an important role here now? Aldosterone, a mineral corticoid produced from the adrenal cortex. Okay, produced from the adrenal cortex. And we already studied that there is another group of hormones which we are not highlighting here, but we can say that gonadocorticoids. Okay, gonadocorticoids. Okay, so gonadocorticoids are also, okay, produced from the adrenal cortex. Okay, adrenal cortex. Sex corticoids we are calling them as, or sex corticoids of adrenal glands. Sex corticoids of adrenal glands we are saying. And one more point here, remember that these adrenal glands are also called as the suprarenal glands. Okay, suprarenal glands. Okay, we are talking about what now? The suprarenal glands. Okay, adrenal glands. Okay, adrenal glands are also called as the suprarenal glands. So adrenal glands will also produce, okay, from the adrenal cortex, okay, gonadocorticoids. Okay, sex corticoids we are calling them as. And especially we highlighted in the previous video that androgens and androgens in the males, estrogen in the females, they bring up what? The secondary sexual characteristics in the children or in the fetus. Okay, especially in the fetus. Okay, especially in the fetus we say. Now these gonadocorticoids produced from the adrenal glands, also known as what? Suprarenal glands. Okay, help in growth of axial hair in the armpits. Okay, in the armpits and pubic hair. Okay, pubic hair, axial hair, pubic hair and facial hair. Okay, facial hair. Okay, during the puberty stage. Okay, means growth of the hair at different parts of our body are indicating as they are part of giving a sign that these are all the secondary sexual characteristics. So all these secondary sexual characteristics, okay, hair, growth of hair in different parts of our body, axial or pubic or in the facial hair, by the time the child reaches to puberty, all this is brought by what now? The hormones produced from the adrenal gland. From which part means it is from the adrenal cortex. And these hormones are called as what? Gonadocorticoids we are calling them as. Okay, we are calling them as gonadocorticoids. So here we have seen that the glucocorticoids, okay, glucocorticoids and their functions, mineral corticoids, especially the aldosterone and their functions, and also adrenal cortex also producing another group of hormones called as gonadocorticoids, which are performing different functions. And now we will see the disorders of the adrenal cortex. Now let us look at the first disorder of the adrenal cortex. Okay, disorders of the adrenal cortex we are seeing now, and the first one is what now? The Addison's disease. Okay, this is the first disorder we are going to discuss now. So Addison's disease is one of the disorder of the adrenal cortex. Means it is caused, okay, Addison's disease is caused by the deficiency of what? Both mineral corticoids and glucocorticoids. Okay, mineral corticoids and glucocorticoids are not produced from the adrenal cortex. Okay, they are not produced from the adrenal cortex. So when mineral corticoids and adrenal corticoids are not producing, it may lead to a disease called as what? Addison's disease. Okay, Addison's disease. So in this disease, we also should keep another point in mind. See, we are indirectly telling that this adrenal cortex is getting destroyed. Okay, indirectly we are saying that adrenal cortex is getting destroyed. So when the adrenal cortex gets destroyed, what are the hormones that will not be produced? Especially mineral corticoids and glucocorticoids we are saying, or otherwise even the gonadocorticoids also. But here we are highlighting these two that are very clearly observed in the person who is suffering with the disease called as what? Addison's disease. And remember another very important point, that Addison's disease is also caused in a person who is suffering with a disease called as tuberculosis. Okay, tuberculosis, please remember this. Okay, tuberculosis. Okay, if a person is severely attacked by the tuberculosis, that bacteria which is causing the tuberculosis, okay, can also damage the adrenal glands or adrenal cortex. It can damage the adrenal cortex. So directly what we say is that in a person who is suffering with the tuberculosis disease, okay, tuberculosis disease, it may destroy the adrenal cortex and lead to the deficiency of what now? The mineral corticoids and glucocorticoids. So when these two different types of hormones are not produced, what are the symptoms? What are the symptoms? These are now opposite to the functions that are performed by these two hormones. Okay, see here, it leads to what? Low BP, okay, low blood pressure, and also low plasma sodium ions. The amount of this particular ions, okay, the sodium ions should be maintained at a correctly inside the blood, but inside the plasma, which means inside the plasma. So otherwise blood we can say directly. So the plasma will be having very less amount of what? The sodium ions, because we already said reabsorption of sodium ions will be taking place, but here it is not taking place, so there will be low sodium ions. But what is increasing? There is high increase in potassium ions in the plasma, high increase in the potassium ions in the plasma, which is not good, This is all because of what? Due to the deficiency of mineral corticoids, and otherwise we are now talking about the glucocorticoids. And when these two are deficient in our body, it also leads to increased urinary sodium ions, means more amount of the sodium ions are lost. Actually the sodium ions should be reabsorbed, but here reabsorption is not taking place, but whereas the sodium ions are being eliminated from the body in the form of urine, okay, through the urine. And it also leads to nausea, which is very commonly we come across, vomiting, diarrhea, and the skin will be changing as bronze-like, okay, bronze-like pigmentation of the skin, okay, bronze-like pigmentation of the skin. And in these people, okay, in these people who are suffering with the deficiency of mineral corticoids and glucocorticoids will also suffer with severe dehydration, okay, severe dehydration will also be observed in these people. So with all these signs or symptoms, okay, with these symptoms we can say that there is a problem with the adrenal cortex, and it is the disease named as what? Addison's disease. So remember that in the Addison's disease, it is caused due to the deficiency of what? Mineral corticoids and glucocorticoids. And adrenal cortex is also destroyed in the person who is suffering with what? Tuberculosis, okay, tuberculosis. So these are some points we have to remember when we are discussing about what? The first disease called as Addison's disease. Now here, the second disease, okay, second disease called as gynecomastia, okay, gynecomastia we are saying. Okay, gynecomastia means it is the development of enlarged mammary glands. It is the development of enlarged mammary glands. Mammary glands means what? Breasts. So this is one characteristic of the females. But here we are seeing this particular characteristic in the males. This particular characteristic in the males. In males, there will be development of enlarged mammary glands. That is nothing but breasts. So that is not a character that should be expressed or exhibited by whom? Males. But in the males, it is now the mammary glands are enlarged. That is breast we are saying. It is caused, okay, it is caused because of what? The estrogen which is produced in more quantity. Why gynecomastia is caused in the males means it is because of more secretion of what? The estrogen, okay, increase the secretion of estrogen and decrease the secretion of testosterone, okay, testosterone. So testosterone is produced in less quantity, whereas there is estrogen that is produced in more quantity, and in such cases we call this as what? The gynecomastia, development of enlarged mammary glands, that is nothing but the breast in males. This is another, okay, disorder which we should keep in mind when we are talking about the adrenal cortex. So when the adrenal cortex is damaged, it can also lead to gynecomastia. And the next disease is aldosteronism, okay, aldosteronism. Aldosteronism is also called as Conn's syndrome, okay, also called as Conn's syndrome. So in this, okay, why it is caused means it is due to the excessive production of aldosterone hormone, okay, due to the excessive production of aldosterone hormone, it is leading to a disease named as what? Aldosteronism, or otherwise we are calling it as Conn's syndrome, we are calling it as. So we already said in the very beginning of this chapter, we said that these hormones should not be produced in more quantity or less quantity. Here we are coming across the point as that the hormones are produced in more quantity. Aldosterone is produced in more quantity. When this aldosterone will be produced in more quantity? During the adrenal cortical tumor, okay, adrenal cortical tumor disease means when it is leading to the cancer of adrenal cortex, okay, adrenal cortex, there are chances that these, okay, or this adrenal cortex will be producing more amount of aldosterone, okay, more amount of aldosterone. So when more amount of aldosterone is produced, it is leading to what? Aldosteronism, or otherwise Conn's syndrome we are saying. When it will be leading to this disease means when this adrenal cortex is caused by tumor, okay, means cancer, okay, means cancer. Now what are the symptoms? What are the symptoms of this particular disease? High plasma of sodium ions, okay, high plasma of sodium ions and low plasma of potassium ions, okay, low plasma of potassium ions, rise in blood volume, high BP and also polyuria. These are all the symptoms, and with all these symptoms they will be cross-checking the adrenal gland, its normal functions. When they identify all these changes in the blood, see, all these are seen with the renal tubules or the presence with the elimination and absorption and excretion of these sodium ions and potassium ions respectively, and at the same time the rise in blood volume, high BP and polyuria, they are all related with the functionings of the cardiovascular system and kidneys. So when these two are not functioning properly, they will be cross-checking the adrenal gland, especially the adrenal cortex. And if it is identified as the adrenal cortical tumor, then it means, okay, that it is a disease called as what? Aldosteronism, Conn's syndrome. So this is the third disease that we have to keep in mind when we are discussing about the disorders of adrenal cortex. Disorders of adrenal cortex. And now, if we are seeing the fourth one, it is called as the adrenal viridism. Okay, adrenal viridism. This is another disease that is caused due to the damage of what? The adrenal cortex. Okay, adrenal cortex. So in adrenal viridism, there will be appearance of male characters in the females. Okay, there will be appearance of male characters in females. Okay, appearance of male characters in females. In the previous one, gynecomastia, we said that in males there is the development of mammary gland, that is the breast, due to increased secretion of what? Estrogen, and decreased secretion of testosterone, we said. So this is just opposite to that. So here adrenal viridism means appearance of male characters in the females. Okay, appearance of male characters in the females. So what are those male characters that will be seen in the females now? So they produce male secondary sexual characteristics. What are those? The females will be showing the growth of the beard. Okay, growth of the beard. That is a characteristic of what? The males. And mustache and hoarse voice in women. Okay, hoarse voice in women. These are generally the characteristics of whom we say means they are the characteristics of the men. But here, because of the disorder in the adrenal cortex, it is leading to a disease where the females will be showing the male characteristics. Okay, male characteristics like growth of beard, mustache, and hoarse voice. Okay, hoarse voice. So these are points that we have to remember. And when these are seen in the females, it can be understood that it is a disease named as what? Adrenal viridism. Moreover, we should keep that it is because there is a damage or improper functioning of the adrenal cortex. Okay, adrenal cortex. And now there is another disease now called as what? Cushing's syndrome. Okay, it is called as Cushing's syndrome. We already have seen when there is excess of aldosteronism, we said. Okay, Conn syndrome, we said. Okay, where when there is excess of what? Aldosterone, we said in the previous one. But here we are saying Cushing syndrome. It is caused due to the excessive secretion of what? Cortisol. Okay, due to the excessive secretion of cortisol. So we already stressed in this chapter, and we should keep in mind hormones are produced in trace amounts only. Trace amounts only. They should not be produced in more quantity. They should not be produced in less quantity. So when this hormone, okay, especially the cortisol, when it is produced in excess quantity than what is required, it will lead to different symptoms or signs, and it is characterized by what? High sugar in the urine. Okay, there will be the presence of high sugar in the urine, rise in plasma sodium ions, decrease in plasma potassium ions, rise in blood volume, high BP, and obesity. We also use one word, please remember, wasting of muscles in the thighs, okay, or in the pelvic or pectoral girdles, we say. Okay, pelvic and pectoral girdles. That is also another point we have to remember. Wasting of muscles. Okay, wasting of muscles. Okay, is also one of the characteristic. Okay, one of the characteristic of the disease called as what? Cushing's syndrome. Wasting of muscles. So when we see all these characteristics, it can be understood that it is a disease named as what? Cushing's syndrome. Okay, Cushing's syndrome. So here in this video we have seen different disorders of adrenal cortex, which are very, very important.